Hello students. Today I will be discussing about a very interesting topic. It is protein synthesis. Protein synthesis. Okay. So protein synthesis means very simply formation of protein. Okay. So how can we define protein synthesis? It is the process of polymerization of amino acids to form the polymer protein. And where does it take place? Protein synthesis takes place in the ribosome. So ribosome is the site of protein formation. It is the site for synthesis of protein. Okay. Suppose this is a cell. Suppose this is nucleus. And ribosome remains outside the nucleus in the cytoplasm. You know this, right? So it is a site for formation of protein. Now the genetic information of protein synthesis. Genetic information of protein synthesis means the arrangement of 20 types amino acids in a protein. See, we have 20 types of amino acids, and all these 20 types of amino acids form different proteins, isn't it? They arrange in different sequences and thus they form different proteins. Now, this sequence of amino acids in a protein is determined by our DNA, right? So in DNA, suppose basically DNA remains inside the nucleus. Okay, so in DNA, in the form of nitrogenous base sequences, suppose this is DNA molecule A, T, Z, C, C, Z, Z, T, A, suppose in the form of nitrogenous base sequences, this genetic information of protein synthesis means the arrangement of amino acids in a protein to be synthesized in the ribosome is stored. And you know that DNA remains basically inside the nucleus, but protein synthesis takes place outside the nucleus in the ribosome, isn't it? Means somebody has to carry the information of protein synthesis from DNA to ribosome. Okay, am I clear? Because the information, these messages of protein synthesis is stored in DNA, means inside the nucleus. Since protein synthesis takes place outside the nucleus, somebody has to carry the messages of protein synthesis from DNA to ribosome, and it is carried by messenger RNA. You know this, messenger RNA, mRNA. mRNA first copies the information from DNA, actually from one strand of DNA, and then after getting this information, the mRNA leaves the nucleus and migrates to the cytoplasm, where it fixes at the smaller subunit of ribosome. Okay, so thus the information of protein synthesis that remains basically inside the nucleus is copied by mRNA, and it transfers to the site of protein synthesis, means to the ribosome. Okay, and when the mRNA reaches the ribosome, the base sequence, suppose A, U, Z, C, U, Z, suppose the base sequences of this mRNA get translated into amino acid sequence of protein. Thus, one protein, at first these amino acids are linked to form polypeptide chain, and this polypeptide chain will finally form one protein molecule. So these are very simple things about protein synthesis. So let's see the mechanism of protein synthesis, means how a protein molecule forms in our cell. Okay. Now the whole process of protein synthesis can be described in two phases. First one, transcription, and then second step is translation. Transcription and translation. Okay, so these are the two phases of protein synthesis. Actually, protein protein synthesis is a very complex process and it involves these two phases. So let's discuss about the first phase, transcription. So what is it? It is the first phase of protein synthesis. First phase of protein synthesis. And it comprises of transfer of genetic information from one strand of DNA to mRNA. It comprises of transfer of genetic information from one strand of DNA to mRNA. Suppose this is mRNA strand, 3 prime, 5 prime, 5 prime to 3 prime, polarity of DNA strand. Okay, so this is the newly synthesized mRNA strand. So what is transcription? It is the first phase of protein synthesis comprising of transfer of genetic information from one strand of DNA to mRNA, and also its migration. It means mRNAs. Its migration, suppose this is nucleus, its migration to the cytoplasm where it fixes at the smaller subunit of ribosome. Okay, suppose this is mRNA. So transcription involves two steps. First one, transfer of information of protein synthesis from DNA, one strand of DNA to mRNA, then migration of mRNA from nucleus to the ribosome. Okay. So what happens during transcription? See, at the initial stage of transcription, the two strands of DNA remain coiled, and at the initial stage of transcription, the two strands of DNA separate from each other by the breakage of their hydrogen bonds by enzymatic action, and after separation, only one DNA strand acts as template. After separation, only one DNA strand acts as template for the synthesis of one mRNA strand. Suppose this one mRNA. Okay. So this DNA strand, suppose its base sequences are A, Z, T, A, C, 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 Z. Suppose. Then the base sequence of this DNA strand would be this DNA strand, that's why T, C, A, T, T, Z, 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 C. So these are the two DNA strands, and after separation, suppose this DNA strand acts as template, then the nitrogen base sequence of this mRNA strand would be A, U. See, this one mRNA. We cannot write thymine here, isn't it? So that's why I have written U, C, A, T, T, Z, 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 C. So the base sequence of this newly synthesized mRNA strand is determined by the base sequence of this DNA strand. That's why it is template. This DNA strand is template DNA strand. Template DNA strand. So during transcription, the DNA strand that codes for the synthesis of mRNA strand is called template DNA strand. And one thing, the whole transcription process is catalyzed by only one enzyme. It is DNA dependent RNA polymerase. Okay, DNA dependent RNA polymerase. So this enzyme catalyzes the whole transcription process. Okay, so we found that during replication, when we studied replication, the DNA polymerase enzyme, it can synthesize new DNA strand in 5' to 3' direction. Okay. Similarly, the RNA polymerase can also synthesize new DNA strand only in one direction, that is 5' to 3'. That's why the DNA strand having the polarity 3' to 5' can act as template for the synthesis of new mRNA strand, because new strand always synthesizes from 5' to 3' direction. That's why if I ask you that during transcription which DNA strand would act as template, then you have to answer the DNA strand having the polarity 3' to 5' would act as template. Okay. And the DNA strand which doesn't code for the synthesis of mRNA. See, this DNA strand, it doesn't determine the base sequence of this mRNA strand, means it doesn't code for the synthesis of mRNA strand, isn't it? This DNA strand is called coding DNA strand. Coding DNA strand. See, why it is called coding? See, it doesn't code for mRNA, but it is called coding. Why? See, you can see in the figure, the base sequence of this DNA strand and the newly synthesized mRNA strand is same, isn't it? Their base sequences are same, except at the place of thymine, this mRNA strand contains uracil, because RNA contains uracil instead of thymine of DNA. So, except the presence of thymine, and at the place of thymine the mRNA contains uracil, otherwise the base sequences of these mRNA strands and this DNA strand are same. That's why it is called coding DNA strand. Okay. Okay. Now one question is there. Why both the DNA strands do not act as template during transcription? Or why only one DNA strand acts as template during transcription? See, if both the DNA strands act as template, then they would code for two mRNA strands. Suppose T, A, Z, U. Sorry, U. We cannot write thymine in RNA. Sorry, U, A, then C, and Z. Okay. I did one mistake. We cannot write thymine here. Uracil. Okay. So if both the DNA strands act as template, then they would code for two mRNA molecules having different sequences. You can see in the figure that these two mRNA strands have different base sequences. Okay. So in turn, if these two mRNA would code for protein molecule in the ribosome, means when transcription is followed by the next phase of protein synthesis that I mentioned, translation. So during translation, each strand of mRNA would code for one protein molecule, one polypeptide chain, isn't it? So if both the DNA strands act as template, then they would code for two mRNA strands having different sequences, and in turn when they code for amino acid sequences in the ribosome, they would code for two different polypeptide chain, isn't it? Suppose it would code for one X polypeptide chain, then it would code for one different polypeptide chain X dash. Okay, then the same segment of DNA would code for two different proteins, which is not possible. It would complicate the genetic information transfer machinery. One segment of DNA cannot code for two protein molecules, but if these two mRNA strands code for amino acid sequences in the ribosome, then they would code for two protein molecules, which would complicate the genetic information transfer machinery, isn't it? So that's why both the strands of DNA cannot act as template during transcription. This is first reason. Second one, you can see here, if both the strands act as template, then they produced two mRNA molecules simultaneously, and you can see here the base sequences of these two newly synthesized mRNA strands are complementary to each other, isn't it? They are complementary to each other. So you know that when complementary bases, nitrogenous bases come together, they immediately form hydrogen bonds between them, ZC. So if these two complementary mRNA molecules are produced simultaneously, they would form hydrogen bond and form one double-stranded RNA. And it would prevent mRNA from being translated into protein, isn't it? that is double-stranded mRNA cannot be translated into protein. So, if such double-stranded RNAs are formed, then it would prevent the RNA from being translated into protein. That's why the two strands of DNA cannot act as template during transcription, and only one DNA strand having the polarity 3' to 5' can act as template during transcription. Okay? Now, let's see what are the differences between these two DNA strands, means template and coding DNA strand. See, when we want to distinguish between two things, the first difference is always their definition. Okay, so definition of template DNA strand means the DNA strand which codes for the synthesis of mRNA during transcription is called template DNA strand. Okay, and the DNA strand which doesn't code for the synthesis of mRNA during transcription is called coding DNA strand. Okay. Then the second difference, the polarity of template DNA strand is 3' to 5', and the polarity of coding DNA strand is 5' to 3'. Isn't it? This is one difference. Then third one, see, the nitrogenous base sequence of this DNA strand is complementary to the base sequence of this newly synthesized mRNA strand. Okay, you can see here A, U, Z, C all are complementary to each other. So their relation is complementary to each other. So the nitrogenous base sequence of this DNA strand is complementary to that of the newly synthesized mRNA strand. Whereas the nitrogenous base sequence of this coding DNA strand is same with that of the newly synthesized mRNA strand, except the presence of thymine at the place of uracil. This is one important difference. So these are the three differences between template and coding DNA strand. Okay. I think up to this point you got a little thing about transcription. Okay, so this mRNA, after getting this information from DNA strand, this mRNA actually at this time it is not functional, it is immature actually. It has to undergo some processes like they are called post-transcriptional processing. These are called post-transcriptional processing. Okay, post-transcriptional processing. Why post-transcriptional? Because they occur after transcription. And after getting through this post-transcriptional processing, the mRNA becomes mature, and then it is ready to leave the nucleus and to migrate to the ribosome. Okay, and we will discuss about this post-transcriptional processing in my next video. And today we know that the information of protein synthesis is written in DNA, which is first copied to mRNA, and after getting this information, the mRNA carries the information of protein synthesis in the. Hello students, actually there was some technical problem in the recording of video class in your board, for which I could not complete my lecture. That's why I want to add something from my home by using your NCERT book, and we are discussing about template DNA strand and coding DNA strand, right? So we can explain this template and coding DNA strand with the help of transcription unit. This is the figure of a transcription unit. Now you have to know what is a transcription unit. Transcription unit is the region of DNA whose base sequences are copied to mRNA during transcription. Okay. and structurally a transcription unit in DNA is composed of three parts. This one promoter, a terminator, and a structural gene. Okay, this middle region is structural gene. So each transcription unit in DNA whose base sequences are copied to mRNA during transcription is composed of a promoter, structural gene, and a terminator. Okay, now let's see their location. Promoter, it is the starting portion of a transcription unit and it is located towards the 3' end of template DNA strand. So this one template DNA strand and this one coding DNA strand. Okay, so promoter gene, promoter is located towards the 3' end of a template DNA strand. And see, this 3' end is also known as downstream of a DNA strand. Downstream, you will find in your book this one 3' end. 3' end is also known as downstream. Okay, why it is called downstream? Because you know that a new DNA strand always synthesizes from 5' to 3' direction, isn't it? 5' to 3' direction. So 5' end is called upstream and 3' end is called downstream. You will get in your book 5' end is also known as upstream and 3' end is also known as downstream. Okay, so promoter is located towards the 3' end, means downstream of the template DNA strand, and it is located towards the 5' end, means upstream of the coding DNA strand. Let's see the location of terminator. It is located towards the 5' end, means upstream of the template DNA strand, and towards the 3' end, means downstream of the coding DNA strand. Okay, so when we distinguish between coding and template DNA strand, we can also write this one as a difference, that the location of promoter and terminator. We can write like that: in template DNA strand, the promoter is located towards the 3' end and terminator is located towards the 5' end. Or in case of coding DNA strand, promoter is located towards the 5' end and terminator is located 3' end. Okay, and already 3 differences I have mentioned, and so total 4 differences we can write to distinguish template and coding DNA strands. Okay, now see what are their functions. Promoter gene, this promoter region, it initiates transcription. Now how does this promoter can start transcription? See, I mentioned earlier that the transcription process is catalyzed by a single enzyme. It is DNA dependent RNA polymerase, isn't it? DNA dependent RNA polymerase is responsible for the whole transcription process. Now this promoter region, it provides binding site for this RNA polymerase enzyme to attach at this transcription unit. Okay, so once RNA polymerase enzyme binds to this promoter region, it initiates transcription. Okay, do you get it? So what is the function of promoter? It initiates transcription by providing binding site for the DNA dependent RNA polymerase enzyme, which is the single enzyme to catalyze the whole transcription process. Okay, now let's see the function of terminator. It is located towards the end portion of transcription unit. It is located towards the 5' end of template DNA strand and towards the 3' end of the coding DNA strand. Okay, now terminator gives stop signal of transcription process. Means when this RNA polymerase enzyme, which is already attached to promoter, it moves towards the 5' to 3' end, and when it reaches this terminator region, this terminator will stop the transcription of process. It doesn't allow the RNA polymerase enzyme to move forward. Means it stops the synthesis of mRNA from this template DNA strand. Now come to structural gene. It is very important. This structural gene is flanked between the terminator and the promoter gene, isn't it? It is the middle part which remain between the promoter and terminator gene. Okay. Now, it is the actual region of transcription unit which is copied to mRNA, whose base sequences are copied to mRNA. Okay. So, promoter initiates transcription, terminator stops transcription, and the structural gene is actually copied to mRNA to synthesize one mRNA strand. Okay. Now, see, in eukaryotes, the eukaryotic transcriptional unit, this structural gene is called monocistronic. You can see here, in eukaryotes, the structural gene is called monocistronic. But in prokaryotes, the structural gene in a transcription unit is called polycistronic. In prokaryotes like bacteria, the structural gene is polycistronic. Now let's see what is the difference between monocistronic and polycistronic structural gene. Before moving on to this, you have to know what is a cistron. Okay, this one, what is a cistron? Okay, let me explain. Suppose this is one DNA molecule, and suppose this region of DNA, suppose this region of DNA codes for one polypeptide. Suppose this region of DNA codes for one polypeptide, means the nitrogenous base, amino acid sequence of one polypeptide chain is determined by this region of DNA. Then this is called one cistron. Do you get it? So what is cistron? It is the segment of DNA which can code for one polypeptide. So the segment of DNA which codes for one polypeptide is called one cistron. Okay. Now, in monocistronic structural gene, see, it is found in eukaryote. Eukaryotic structural gene is called monocistronic. Suppose this one promoter structural gene and this one terminator. In monocistronic structural gene, all the regions of DNA are not coding. Means all the sequences do not carry messages of protein synthesis. Okay. So in monocistronic structural gene, all the sequences are not coding. Coding sequences are interrupted by non-coding one. Here suppose this is coding region, then again non-coding, coding, non-coding. Okay, so coding sequences are also known as exons, and non-coding sequences are known as introns. Okay, non-coding sequences are known as introns. So in eukaryotic structural gene, in a transcription unit, the coding sequences, coding means the regions which can code for protein, which carries messages of protein synthesis. So these coding regions are interrupted by non-coding sequences. Okay, or we can also say exons are interrupted by introns. Clear? So that's why eukaryotic genes are called split genes. Split genes means the genes are not continuous. Okay, split genes. Eukaryotic structural gene is called monocistronic because the one structural gene may code for one protein only, but in prokaryotic DNA like bacteria, the structural gene of a transcription unit is called polycistronic, and their structural gene, all the sequences of their structural genes are coding. They all are exons. Introns are not present in prokaryotic DNA. Remember this thing. All the sequences of their DNA contain messages of protein synthesis. They are coding sequences. Okay. Their structural gene is called polycistronic because their one structural gene may code for more than one protein. Okay. So these are about transcription unit. I will explain all those things again so that you can get a clear concept about transcription unit by using your blackboard. Okay. I mentioned that during transcription, one DNA strand is copied to mRNA strand. Okay. Now you came to know that this eukaryotic DNA contains both the coding and non-coding sequences, isn't it? So during transcription, when one DNA strand is directly copied to mRNA strand, means the newly synthesized mRNA also contains both the exons and introns, isn't it? When the mRNA is copied from the DNA strand, it also contains both the coding and non-coding sequences. Okay, but non-coding sequences have no role in protein synthesis. Okay, so at that time, at the primitive time, the primary mRNA is immature as it contains both the exons and introns. It is immature and functionless. So to become this mRNA, newly synthesized mRNA, active and functional, it has to undergo some post-transcriptional processing that we will discuss in our next video. After passing through this processing, the mRNA becomes active and functional, and then it is ready for the next phase of protein synthesis, that is translation. Means the mature mRNA leaves the nucleus and then it migrates to the cytoplasm, where it fixes at the smaller subunit of ribosome, and then it will be translated into amino acid sequence of polypeptide. Okay, so this post-transcriptional processing and whatever I explained here, again I will discuss in your classroom by using your blackboard. Okay, so this is about today's class. Thank you.